At this point, I'm just gonna go on record and say that if Nintendo decides to release a Mario Kart 9, it's most likely going to be, say, for the Switch 2 console, whatever they decide to call that. Because I think the Switch console's been out since 2017, and right now we're in the year 2024. And normally around like 6 to 7 years, Nintendo normally switches over to their next generation game system. And the thing is, I have no idea whether or not the Switch 2 is going to be backwards compatible. And the reason I say that is because the Nintendo Switch wasn't backwards compatible with the Wii U, and if they were smart, they'd probably continue the tradition with their next generation game system. But um, two of the biggest games that people are looking forward to seeing in Nintendo's next generation game console. One of them is Metroid Prime 4, which has been in developmental hell since 2017, and then you got Mario Kart 9, a game that people have been waiting about a decade to see. And the last time I really heard about Mario Kart 9 was back in January of 2022 when an analyst said the game was in active development and it could be announced like later that year. And I don't think it was ever announced or anything like that. It wasn't announced in 2022. It wasn't announced this past year in 2023. So by default, I'm just going to go on record and just say that you know what, they're probably saving it for the Switch 2 console. And it wouldn't make a lot of sense because that's going to make people want to buy the Switch 2 console. And as far as Mario Kart 9 is concerned, we have like no details about it. We don't know what new gameplay features is going to be included in it. We have no idea whether or not there's going to be a story. What special features are going to be included in the game. I have no idea. And like for the most part, like Mario Kart games, like for the past at least like 30 plus years, none of them have been like story driven. So if Mario Kart 9 was heavily story driven, or there was a story mode outside of the local and online multiplayer game modes, that would actually be pretty cool. But I wouldn't necessarily get my hopes up because I don't think Nintendo needs to include a story mode in Mario Kart 9. At the same time, it wouldn't hurt. But yeah, I mean, you put two and two together as to why we didn't get a Mario Kart game for a new Mario Kart game for the Switch console. It's because Nintendo's obviously saving it for the Switch too. And and at this point, I hope it doesn't get to a point where people just don't care anymore by the time they announce it. Because I know when Nintendo announces Mario Kart 9 or whatever they decide to call it, it's going to be a big deal. It's going to be making headlines. It's going to trend on Twitter/X. And I know it's going to do a ridiculous number in terms of sales once it's released. And at this point, I don't necessarily have a timetable on when when that game will be released because it hasn't been announced yet. But yeah, I do feel that it's a bit of a bummer that we didn't get to see Mario Kart 9 on the Switch console. But at the same time, I think that's basically as good as Nintendo's games are in terms of like trying to get as much as they can out of like certain titles, like with Zelda. Zelda Breath of the Wild. They kind of made as much of a profit off of that as they could, and then Tears of the Kingdom was pretty much like connected to Breath of the Wild and ended up being a better game in comparison. So I mean, I do find it kind of ridiculous that we got like two like main Zelda games on the Switch console, but we only got like Mario Odyssey, and we never got a Mario Odyssey 2 for the Switch console. We never got Mario Kart 9 for the Switch console. And a lot of people would probably go on record and tell you that Zelda Tears of the Kingdom should have been saved for the Switch too, and that would have been a good idea in hindsight, but it is what it is. Something tells me that we might get Mario Kart 9 before we get Metroid Prime 4 because Metroid Prime 3 came out back in like 2007. And I mean, I honestly don't think that Nintendo thought, initially after 2007 that they were ever going to do a Metroid Prime 4. They probably thought that was behind them and that the Metroid series is not, it's not raking in as much of a profit as Mario or Zelda or anything else they got going for them. So it is what it is. And I do feel that Mario Kart 9 is definitely going to be one of the most sought after Nintendo games in the future. After Nintendo actually reveals the game and the gameplay trailer and all that other stuff. But I'm honestly looking forward to seeing what Nintendo is going to do with Mario Kart 9. Um, in comparison to Mario Kart 8? Are they going to bring back any old features? Are they going to use different aesthetics? I'm not exactly sure what to expect, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be a big deal once it's released. And honestly, I'm getting my hopes up on Mario Kart 9 appearing on the Switch too sometime within the next year or two.